Welcome back, subscribers, and today you join me on the next criterion of the OCR A-level specification, and we are looking at explaining what is meant by the cross-price elasticity of demand, following on in our series with regard to the different elasticity measures, remembering that elasticity really means sensitivity. So again, this is an explain, a scratch the surface understanding really is all we need for this particular criterion. So without further ado, ladies and gents, let's get straight to it. So equation, first of all, XED cross price elasticity of demand. This is the equation, the percentage change in quantity demanded of good A divided by the percentage change in the price of good B. So we're looking at how the demand for one good changes when the price of another good changes. And as I've explained here, it is a look at the sensitivity of the quantity demanded of good A relative to the change in the price of B. So we can have three outcomes. Normally in an exam scenario you'll only really be presented with the first two. So if XED, cross-price elasticity, is positive, then we're talking about substitute goods. So take two substitutes, so coffee, tea, apples, pears, whatever it may be. So if we say that the price of tea goes up, well, if that's the case, then it's probably also going to be the case that people will switch to the substitute, and so they will buy more coffee. So the quantity demanded of A would go up. So in that instance, you'd have a positive over a positive to give you a positive outcome. Price of tea goes up, people switch, and they buy more coffee, vice versa. So positive outcomes for substitutes. Negative outcomes for complements, so tennis bats and tennis balls. So let's assume that the price of a tennis bat, on the bottom here, price of the tennis bat goes up, so people stop buying tennis bats. As a consequence, they need fewer of the complementary good, the tennis balls. And so the quantity of balls demanded falls. So on the bottom line, it's a positive for the increase in the price of the tennis bat, but on the top line, it's a negative for the reduction in the quantity of tennis balls demanded. Negative over positive gives us a negative outcome. And then finally, if the goods are totally unrelated, so cement and a bar of chocolate, well, what you'll find there is that the answer and the outcome will be zero. And so that's very rarely, in fact, I don't think I've ever, in my couple of decades now of teaching, I don't think I've ever seen that come up in an exam question. However, my A-level students, we are working through past papers at the moment as we revise, and we did come across one just the other day with regard to close and distant complements. So let me just say a little bit more about that. So if something is a close complement, that means that if the price of it, B in this instance, if the price falls a relatively small amount, then because they're quite close complements, you get quite a significant proportional increase in the quantity of the other good demanded. So if you think about tennis bats and tennis balls, well, if you get a relatively small reduction in the price of tennis bats, particularly around Wimbledon time when everyone's really getting into it and getting out in the summer sunshine of a late evening, you might find then that you get quite a proportional increase in the number of tennis balls, because of course it's always handy to go to the tennis court with more than one ball. So you might get a scenario like this, 5% reduction in price yielding a greater increase in the quantity demanded, so say 15% in this instance. So in that case we'd be talking about things which are relatively close complementary goods. However, if they're more distant complements, so you get a reduction in price but not really that much of an increase in the quantity demanded of the other good which goes with it, then that would be referred to as distant complements. So in this instance here I've said you've got a 5% reduction in price, but the quantity of increased demand of the other good is only 2%, so relatively small in that case. So that's the difference between close and distant. Do look out for that. It's on multiple choice on the 2016 AS Micro paper, I believe. And then finally, well, what use is this cross-price elasticity of demand? Well, as I've written here, I've said it analyses how changes in the price of competitors' goods and services impact the demand for your own. So if you think about, for example, particularly, say, public transport, say railways and bus services, well, the railway industry might be able to determine, to an extent, if they are price B, so the price of railways falls, then how much are people likely to reduce their consumption of bus travel, and vice versa. So it does help to determine the demand for your good. However, we must not forget that we're taking these in what we refer to as ceteris paribus assumptions, i.e. all other things held constant. And we know, of course, that in the real economy, all other things aren't held constant. They're changing all the time. So let's not forget this ceteris paribus assumption. So remember, there are other factors which determine the demand for specific goods and services, such as price elasticity of demand, which you'll find in another video, income elasticity of demand, you'll find that in another video, and just the general determinants of demand also, which you can find in another video. So plenty to consider there with the role of cross-price elasticity in the real economy. Okay, ladies and gents, thanks for watching. If this is your first time right through to the end, thank you. If you're a subscriber, thank you. If you're not a subscriber, why not? Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to get all the alerts. I'm uploading one a day at the moment, hopefully right through to the exams. Follow me on Twitter, G_economics, Instagram, G_economics, and find out all the latest goings on at geeconomics.co.uk/events.